Most people think that if you're going to be homeless, that you're either a drug addict, a criminal, or you got a mental health issues, or you've got a combination of the three. But that's not necessarily true. Right now, with the way that the whole global economy is going, the whole American economy is going, even with the election of Donald Trump, there are still a lot of obstacles that are in our way over the next few years that could cause you to become homeless. And that's what we're going to talk about today. The different things that could affect you that may actually cause you to be homeless and why you should prepare. And then at the very end, I'm going to give you some tips and tricks from my 25 years of being chronically homeless that will help you prepare to be homeless in 2025 or 2026 if this is something that does end up happening to you. So let's talk about the first and probably the biggest thing that is out there is that right before the election, we had the dock workers strike. Now, there are multiple unions within the dock worker union that need to be able to come to the table and sign a collective bargaining agreement. Some of these unions have, but some of the other unions haven't, and therefore they are holding out. They have put a postponement of this final strike to somewhere around May is when they actually intend on doing something like this. How is this going to affect the economy? Well, this is our whole supply chain. This is going to close down our American ports, and the only way to be able to get goods to come in is to either go through Canada or to go through Mexico or to go through, some other country other than the United States because our ports are shut down due to a strike. How is that going to affect the cost of goods? How is that going to affect our just-in-time supply chain? How is that going to affect our economy? Because as the costs go up, that means that there's less money to be able to be spread around the economy because it's going into fewer people's pockets and a lot more of it. So what this is going to do is possibly cause businesses to go out of business. It's going to cause companies to tighten their belts and maybe start laying off workers so that they can at least keep their status quo going. There's a lot of different things that if your job is tied to the supply chain, whether it be, getting goods in so that you can sell them on retail, or whether it be getting supplies in so that you can go out and build and do construction and do things like that, this is going to make your life harder. This is going to take more money out of your pocket. And as inflation roars along, this is, and the costs keep going up, this is something that could cause an economic cataclysm for you as an individual. Number two is inflation. Okay, inflation is something that is causing a lot of people to become homeless or to move in with friends or family, to bring on roommates, to find cheaper ways to live. Okay, I've heard from subscribers who've left comments, that up in Connecticut, their rent went from $1,500 to $2,800. Their rent almost doubled because of the whole inflation and the housing crisis. And a lot of what's happening is that, and I've also heard this from subscribers that were affected by this, that were landlords, is that during the shutdowns, the landlords did not get paid. The landlords had to fight and struggle to be able to keep what it is that they had, as the federal government sided with the tenant to make sure that people were able to stay housed, and therefore somebody had to get screwed, and it was the property owner. So what are they doing? They're now passing this cost on to the next onto the next tenant, onto the next renter, because of all the money that they lost, because of how far behind they may have gotten on their bills, their mortgages, and everything else like that. Because as they're buying the house, they're renting it to you so that one day it'll become income for them. And so now with everything that happened with the shutdowns of the pandemic, that has caused housing costs to go up. That has caused rental costs to go up, which then affects the rest of the economy, because those builders have to have a place to live. So now that their rent went up, and now that their supplies are going up, now they got to pass it on to you, the end consumer. And with us being Americans, we're used to instant gratification. We're used to being able to have these creature comforts that we don't actually know how to live without it. So now we've got Americans that because of inflation, because of being priced out of the market, they are now, or as the economy goes, and what the talking heads are saying, is that we have the highest amount of credit card default, even higher than what was in 2008. Americans are maxing themselves out to be able to keep the same lifestyle, hoping that it's going to get better, hoping that a new leadership will make things better. But, that's not necessarily what's going to happen here. So inflation itself could price you out to a point where you have to choose between, do I pay rent or do I buy food? And you're going to choose to buy food because you're going to choose to live. Because, when it comes down to it, how long can you go without a roof over your head versus how long can you go without food? And can you keep the balancing act up? I mean, you may cut back on your food consumption. You may try and get cheaper rent. But how long will this musical chairs happen before you get caught up in the homeless crisis? Number 3 is the job market. Okay, right now they've been talking about a recession since 2018. Now the numbers have been cooked depending upon who's in power because of this reason or that reason. It is established fact. It is not political bias. It is just common knowledge at this point in time. So what we are finding out is that not only are there a bunch of ghost jobs, you have a company hiring in Phoenix, but now they're putting their job board up for everywhere in the United States, even though they're only hiring for Phoenix, so that they can get more impressions, so that they can find more qualified candidates, so that maybe they can convince them to relocate, come down, and actually be in that situation. So are there really a lot of jobs out there? The truth of the matter is no, because most of these jobs that we see out here are ghost jobs. They're not real jobs. They're not even in your local area. It's just a way for them to be able to get a wider range of candidates so that they have more to pick through, so that they can be as choosy as they would like to be. Okay, that's one part of the job economy. The other part of the job economy is because of these millions of illegals that have come across the border seeking political asylum, and getting into the country that way and being bussed around the whole entire country. Not only does that play into inflation and rising housing costs, because now we're having to compete with people that legally don't even really have a right to be here, yet be given the legal right to be here in a quasi manner, to the point where now you're competing with them to be able to get housing. But not only are you competing with them to get housing, you're competing with them to be able to get a job. And the statistics have come out from the government showing this exact scenario. What is happening out there is that the native born worker, that is you and me, that was born in this country, we were raised in this country, we were educated in this country, we know its customs and its culture. Okay, we are no longer the preferred worker. Not only are we no longer the preferred worker as native born workers, but we are actually seeing wage decreases as our cost of living goes up. But on the flip side, what is happening to balance that out is that foreign born workers, people that are crossing the border, people that were not born in this country, people that may or may not have the right to be here, those are becoming the preferred workers. And for various reasons, we could say attitude, culture, work ethic, all these different things. But as a former business owner myself, I always wanted to be able to hire American, do American, because this is my country, this is my home, and so therefore I want to benefit. And I think a lot of the small business owners that have not been collapsed out of the market due to public policy and the pandemic, I think that they want to do the same thing. But you have these corporations, these large Walmarts and Amazons, and these companies that are so national that they don't have any responsibility to their local community. They are choosing to hire foreign-born workers, and yet these guys are getting wages, because the thing is, here's the truth, in a lot of instances, at least the stigma or the stereotype is that they're going to outwork us, so therefore they're getting the same amount of money, but because they're working harder, faster, longer, without complaints, without breaks, without all this, because they have no self-worth like we're taught here in America. These guys are getting wage increases. They're becoming the preferred worker. And so as these companies start to trim fat, as we start to see companies like, I think it was either Rite Aid or Walgreens, one of them went out of business. And look at all those thousands of workers that now have to go find a new work, that now have to go and get re-educated to get into a different industry or a different career field, just because there's not enough room in the section in which they're in. And so now you have this whole jumbling up, and now you're competing with foreign-born workers who are going to be preferred over you. It may be because of tax credits. It may be because of all these other different things that the government is doing to be able to, incentivize these companies to hire these foreign-born workers. Well, it's working against us as the native-born worker, and this itself could cause an economic cataclysm that could actually bring you to be homeless, especially in 2025. And lastly, this is something that's obvious, is that natural disasters can make you homeless. Okay, so this is another reason why you should prepare to be homeless. Look at what's going on in LA right now. You have 10 million people that have been told to evacuate. You still have these fires being flamed by the winds. You have incompetence in governance because of their woke agenda and all this other crap that they're doing that actually, destroyed property and basically razed a city to the ground without a standing army around to be able to watch it or to do it. So, we actually just had our first city in modern era be razed to the ground by a fire. I think the last time we had something like this was in the early 1900s. I think around 1906, the Chicago fire, if you look in history. But you also have hurricanes, and Florida this year had 3 of them hit. I don't think that that's quite normal. 1, maybe 2 of them hit, but not 3 of them. And the amount of storms that are brewing around the country, whether it be the ice storms or whether it be the heat wave, which is causing an issue with the crops. Because if you guys remember, when I was on the Buckeye Trail, I was talking to farmers, and they were telling me because it didn't rain, their corn hadn't grown 6 inches, and so therefore that delays the harvest. That gives them less harvest, gives them less yield. I've also talked to others. A guy who is a peanut farmer, and because it rained too much, he lost half of his crop. And then because nuts were cheaper in Brazil, he had to sell his nuts cheaper, because that's the way that the government does the pricing, is they go find it where it's cheapest, and then they force the American farmers to sell it cheaper, even though they could sell it for more, because there's a higher demand in the local market. Okay, so we have natural disasters, and the problem is not the natural disasters, because they've always been happening, they always will happen, and they will continue to happen many times in the future. The problem is that they're getting more extreme. If you look at summer, we had a 6-week heat wave, and then it dropped down to be so cold it was like mid-September, early October. And this is in Maryland, where it goes from being 90 and 100 down to 65 for the high in the middle of August, which is something that's completely unprecedented. What we're seeing is our weather patterns, our seasons are in some ways becoming shorter because they're extreme for a short period of time. It seems like right now the cycle is about 6 weeks, because that's what we saw in the summer. That's what I'm expecting here for this winter, because I've just kind of gotten into the rhythm of how the weather works. It's kind of part of being outside for over 2 years. Okay, but the thing is that they're getting more extreme. They're lasting. The seasons aren't lasting as long. We're having weird transitions. We're having a lot of different things that are happening, and it's causing destruction. And then not only that, coupled with poor governance, incompetence in leadership, to a point where something that could be a minor catastrophe now becomes a major catastrophe that takes out large swaths of property, of land, of assets, and that is what the country uses as collateral. And so therefore that takes away from our country's wealth, and it's destroying not only the dollar in an indirect way, but it's destroying the wealth of our nation, because we have allowed incompetent leaders using their woke agenda, because they have either a D or an R next to their name. We have allowed these people to come in there and put their crazy policies in that are more destructive to the social fabric of our local communities, that we don't even realize it, because we're stuck on R and D. Okay, and so this is the cause and effect of all those things, because so many people decided to choose D instead of actually finding a qualified candidate, which could have been an R, which could have been an L, which could have been an A or an S or whatever. If they have good ideas and they're going to lead the community in the right direction, they deserve a chance to be in leadership. But instead, we're so stuck on the two-party system that now we get to see in LA what the ramifications of that are. And then on a national scale, we got to see it with Biden and now Trump. Okay, so we're getting to see the polarized extremes, and then we're getting to see not only the polarized extremes, but we're seeing the extremes in the governance and the policies that are being created because of whatever craziness that both sides got going on there. So this in itself, just because of government policy, government incompetence, and a natural disaster, could take something that was very small and turn it into something that is very, very big. Okay, so these are different things that would cause you to want to prepare to be homeless. So how can you prepare to be homeless? There's a couple of ways that you could prepare to be homeless. I've been working on this for over 2.5 years. I've got over 1,000 videos. It will teach you everything you need to know about being homeless. Plus, it'll also teach you about the problems and the complications within the homeless industrial complex that administers to the homeless. Okay, so you have the resources that are already here. Hey, if you feel that you find any value in this and it's helping you, don't hesitate to leave a tip in the tip jar or come on over to Patreon and enjoy one of my many memberships. And the $10 and $20 tier gets you the behind the scenes content that you may or may not want to see. Okay, so you have 1,000 videos from me, plus I'm working on a splinter channel that's helping this part of homelessness, because homelessness is more of a mental battle than it is a physical battle, because you have to overcome, attachment, you have to overcome self-destructive behaviors, you have to overcome the creature comforts that you are used to, whether it be being able to go to McDonald's or Starbucks or go to a movie, or you see something at the store, you're able to get it. Well, if you're going to be homeless, and if you know you're going to be homeless, you better get used to having nothing and get yourself psychologically prepared to be able to have nothing. So therefore, what you should really be thinking about is everything that you need is going to be carried on your back. Okay, whether it be a JanSport backpack, a 65 to 90 liter backpack, okay, you're going to have to put all that in there. You're going to need a sleep system. You're going to need a cook system. You're going to need to be able to have a water filtration system. You're going to carry one set of clothes. You are going to have another set of clothes off to the side. Wear one, wash one. That way you can always change your clothes and get it done. Okay. It's also important that you get to know your local homeless community, because they will be able to tell you about the resources that are in your local area. Things that I can't tell you, because every area has its own services, its own things. But these things right here should give you enough to where if you have to prepare to be homeless, you have plenty of content from me. Plus, you also have other resources that will be available, because as you watch my content, it will give you ideas of things that you can do, whether it be how to make money, how to survive, or how to navigate the homeless system or the homeless community, because now you become a new member. So thanks for watching. I hope I earned your subscribe. I'd love to hear your comments, what you guys think, anything I missed. Also, don't forget to share this. Thanks for being here. I'll see you in the next one.